Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Bravebook Reclamation, a Dwarf Fortress Let's Play, where we are reclaiming the Fortress of Bravebook with the goal of, unscrewing it up. After much death and many problems in the last few episodes, we now are kind of in a point where I think things might be stable. Our drinks are a little bit low, and by a little bit, I mean extraordinarily low, and our food is at an all right point. I'd like to get our stuff actually counted, and I'd like to get a little bit caught up with things. Before I do anything else, though, I'm going to jump directly to our expedition leader. Our expedition leader is, of course, Urist, and I just want to give Urist a little nickname here. Now, Urist is a very important dwarf in this fortress because Urist is, the one who inherited the job after the original expedition leader died, and she does feel empathy while being cried on by an unhappy citizen. So I'm going to call this Urist of Bravebook. Now, Urist of Bravebook is our brand new noble. Now, this is a dwarf that I'm going to be following and trying to do my best to keep track of throughout this series going forward, because hopefully they will kind of obtain a place of importance in this series going forward, because the best way to kind of glean story out of Dwarf Fortress is to follow the personalities of your dwarves. So let's take a real quick look at this dwarf. She's utterly languid into the pace of easy living, calm and slow, and she has a low sense of self-esteem and tends to be a bit stubborn in changing her mind about things. She enjoys the company of others, and she likes to brawl and tends to hang on to grievances and tends to make a small mess with her own possessions, and she tends to share her own experiences and thoughts with others. She is currently less private, and she tends to be swayed by emotional appeals. She tends to assume that the worst of two outcomes will be the one that comes to pass, and she can handle stress. She is moved by art and natural beauty, and she is troubled by this, since she dislikes the natural world, and she occasionally overindulges and is currently more rude. She needs alcohol to get through the working day and stammers when she's annoyed. Personally, she doesn't feel strongly about the law and dreams of creating a great work of art. She likes bituminous coal, bismuth bronze, emerald and clear glass, and gems and battle axes, and crowns and yaks for their shaggy hair, and the black bull heads for their whiskers. When possible, prefers to consume red panda, good luck with that, and bonded knife fish, and a pomegranate wine, and absolutely hates jumping spiders for some reason. Adorable little buggers. I'm not sure what she's got against them. So we began our renovations of this upper layer in the last episode, which I would like to continue in this episode. But before we do anything, we need to sort out this drinks thing. So I'm going to go locate our still now, which is a little bit ways down, and see if I can queue up some drinks jobs. Because we're still running everything on manual, because if you watch the previous 3 episodes of this series, you'll know that there was a bit of a mix-up with some were-elephants that had to be dealt with. And so while we do have a supply of things to brew, nobody's been able to do those jobs. So I'm just going to let the game run a little bit and just make sure this job doesn't cancel itself. And then I'm going to hopefully begin actually starting to properly take care of some of these dwarves. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to jump up to the surface, and I'm going to queue up a bunch of drinks to be gathered, or a bunch of plants to be gathered for the use of drinks. Now, gathering stuff from the surface will give us more plants, which will also allow for more drinks. Now, the dwarves are rather busy right now. A lot of them are actually currently placing objects in tombs, such as our chief medical dwarf, who really doesn't feel anything at all right now. She's currently hauling what I think are teeth, or was hauling a tooth, but she doesn't feel anything. This poor dwarf has been through a lot so far, is completely wrapped up in her own appearance and abilities and other personal matters, and tends to think before acting. So Meng over here, is going to be called Doc, and Doc, or Meng, as we call her, lives a fast-paced life and tends to avoid crowds and has little interest in joking around. And she tends to be a little tight with resources when working on projects. Tends to share her own experiences and thoughts with others. And she tends to be passive in discussions and often feels envious of others. Well, as a dwarf in a position of power in a upcoming fortress, you won't need to be too envious. Unfortunately, it appears that some of your friends are already dead because they didn't didn't last very long in this fortress, but at the very least, you have the rank of Chief Medical, which is a pretty good space to be, and we do have this little meeting area right here, which I think I might actually change into a dining hall. We do also have these bookshelves up here, which I kind of want to deconstruct because I would like to use those in the actual library build itself. You can see we have some dwarves outside, drink numbers are going up, which is good, and we can hopefully begin doing some other tasks. Now, something I really want to do is I want to have a direct walkway from our farming zone right here, this area, to up to the surface, because it's a little bit out of the way right now to get down there, and I kind of want this to be my main fortress area, right? Like, yes, we do have these bedrooms up in, where is it? Down, I think? Yeah, we do have some bedrooms and layouts that we can use down here that we have all queued up to be mined out. But this, I don't really want this to be where we live. This is the old fortress. We're going to kind of let it be ruins to a degree. This is where I want us to live. I want us to live in this cavern layer, and I want us to be able to, like, this is going to become a coffin complex, obviously, because we've begun that. But I'm going to get some layouts queued up here, as well as some transport from the surface down to the bottom. So we're going to start off with stairs going down from up here, and then I will get back to you momentarily. So as we get this stairwell down here dug out, something else that I'm doing is I'm starting to prep this area to be a bit more of a resource transport area for getting stuff in and out of the old fortress and into the new fortress, as well as trading stuff, because we also need to connect this to some sort of lever somewhere. Because I'm using this as my kind of defensive area, once we get some mechanisms built, this, oh, looks like the snow's melting. This right here needs to be connected to something that can be used for defense in case we get besieged, and gosh knows what's going to happen when that happens. We do have some mechanisms already constructed, so I'm just going to use this mudstone mechanism that we have down here, and I'm going to stick it in the corner over there, and we're going to get that connected right there. Now, the goal right now is to really recover the dwarves that are super, super, super stressed in Bravebook, because things are just kind of in a rough state right now, and it looks like we have some military here. We have this first Ash named M, and I'm just curious as to where you're going. Are you just visiting, or are you booking it in and booking it back out? It looks like you're booking it in and booking it back out. Well, good on you. We'll see you when we see their little critter. We do need to maybe try and get to know some of these goblins at some point. They are interesting characters, considering they are hostile. I guess it's kind of a bug. It's the way adventure mode works. So these guys are technically not on our side. They're technically not positive entities. They're technically something that should be at war with us. But because they don't have leaders, they are neutral entities. If enemies do show up and attack us that are not aligned with these guys, they will assist. So say like a giant shows up or something, then these characters will assist. And it is kind of neat seeing these like legendary bookbinders and such, like Arab. But what will eventually happen is they might start to go nuts and eventually cease being entities on the map altogether if they go insane enough. So I haven't queued up much in the way of layouts for down here just yet, so I'm going to go and get to that. And then I will continue chit-chatting about the layout that I queue up down here. There's lots of metals and stuff down here, so we're going to be needing to hollow those out. But on top of that, this is just going to be where our dwarves begin to move in. So I've now got a little bit of a layout set up, which I'm going to talk about while the dwarves begin to dig their way into it. We have this kind of area here that I'm digging out, which is going to expand into the main fortress, which is going to bend back this way. And then over here, we've got this kind of little walkway. Now, this walkway is going to go one ramp level up to here, which is then going to have a little dug, constructed bridge going across, which is going to go through here. And I'm thinking this over here is where we're going to end up doing our bedroom layouts. And then down here is where we're going to be doing the rest of the fortress constructions. I'm also going to go in here and I'm going to redo some jobs. I don't really want Meng, the chief medical dwarf, or Urist of Bravebook to be doing any kind of mining. So I'm going to be removing mining from them. And I'm going to be moving those two mining jobs down to these two down here. I'm also going to jump over to orderlies. And I'm actually going to remove some of these dwarves from orderlies because a lot of these dwarves don't have any kind of doctoring skill whatsoever. So I don't really want them running around and doing orderlies while they're doing other jobs. So We're going to do that. And then we also have this farming job where I've got 2 dwarves specifically doing farming. I'm going to be removing our diagnoser here from farming, and I'm going to be moving that down to Stukos. And I'm also going to be moving it down to the other wax worker, Jurist, down here. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because Stukos already has a lot of jobs, and I want them to be focusing on diagnosing. I want them to be focusing on other tasks. So we're going to just kind of let the game run for a little bit because we are in kind of a very rare point of peace. Well, I was going to let the game run for a little bit, but it seems like some migrants have arrived. So let's go take a peek at them real quick, see exactly what we get. We have a fish cleaner, who we can definitely get to do more useful tasks than fish cleaning. We have a leather worker who's also, they're all running in to pick up equipment because there's so much loose equipment in this fortress. We have a bowyer. Well, that's not super useful here, although I'm curious. I wonder what kind of other skills you have here, little bowyer. You're a novice bowyer, but ooh, you've got weapons smithing. Okay. Well, we could definitely use you in that kind of respect then. Over here we have Jurist, who's a peasant. Well, that's a bit of a shame. Are you brave by any chances? You tend to avoid any physical confrontations, and you work to square this natural tendency with your respective martial prowess. He is not envious of others, and he tends to be swayed by the emotions of others. And he isn't particularly ambitious and prefers that everyone live as harmoniously as possible. Though he is troubled by this in his nature, as he does like a little excitement now and then. And he dreams of becoming a legendary warrior. Well, Jurist, I think that you, Jurist of Legend, not to be confused with Jurist of Bravebook, might be an interesting candidate in that case, since you do dream of becoming a legendary warrior and personally believes that martial prowess defines good character of an individual and thinks that introspection is valueless and thinks that those that waste time in self-examination are deluded fools and doesn't respect a society that is settled into harmony without debate and strife. You have a pet cat, how typical of a sociopath, and you have you are 50 years old and just a pet kitten. That is it. You're an adequate wound dresser. Do you have any skills in combat? No, you don't. But you are fascinated by it. What an interesting little dwarf. You know, honestly, I think we're just going to give you the job of militia commander, Jurist. So let's just find you here in the list. Jurist of Legend. There you go. Jurist of Legend. Definitely a fortress of jurists that we're building here. I'm going to create a new squad for you. And we're going to call these Legends of Bravebook, I think. Let's do a little bit of prettying up here. Legend would be like the first name, or rather, we could, let's just clear this, and we're going to go the Okir Legend of Brave... The Legend of Bravery. We'll go with something like that, and we will remove the first adjective. So the Legend of Bravery is our first squad, and this squad underneath equipment, I'm just going to assign them metal armor real quick here, and I'm going to set them to not kill anything, obviously, but I am going to just quickly turn him on to training, so he's going to run around and grab all of his gear. I'm curious as to what kind of gear he's going to pick up. Because I don't fully know what's in this fortress. There's just stuff everywhere. Let's see who else we get, and if anybody interesting pops up, I will talk about them. Right away, I see a diagnoser, so I'm going to give them orderlies, and we're probably going to assign some more dwarves to the hospital in a little bit here. And there's his pet cat. So the migrants all seem to have wandered into the fortress now. We've got a collection of livestock that I'm about to redistribute back outside, as well as a good number of dwarves in the military now, which are all running around and grabbing the gear that is around, which I'll inspect in a little bit as I'm kind of curious. So I'm just going to quickly put a zone here where the military can train in a barracks. It'll be something. It won't be very optimal. There won't be anywhere for them to store their stuff or even sleep, but at the very least, they will have a place for training. Now I'm going to go over here, and we're going to get all of that new livestock assigned outside. Because we're not going to worry about them for a little bit still here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in these corners because we need to get that done sooner rather than later optimally. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply construct a ramp in each one of these corners out of pitch blende. And yes, I'm aware that this stuff is radioactive and toxic in real life, but fortunately Dwarf Fortress does not process such things, at least at this time. So we're going to get those ramps built, and then we're going to get those filled with floors for the corners. We're going to remove this corner, and then we will be placing wall pieces in here, just so that it looks a little bit nicer. And as for the military, let's see what they've managed to find after scrounging around the fortress. Copper shield, silver battle axe, okay. Iron helm, not so bad. What were you able to get here, Onul? You were able to get a bronze short sword, a copper shield, and an iron helm as well. Feb over here, the recruit, was able to get a bronze short sword, a copper shield, and a helm as well. At least everybody's armed. Urist of Legend, the militia commander, was able to get a iron battle axe, copper shield, and it appears that you are covered in sweat. And then down here at the bottom, you were able to get a copper shield as well as some other things. Now, we're going to jump over to schedule training here. I'm just going to put them onto constant training, and the minimum number of soldiers to follow a new order, we're going to say 2, and then, let's say 5. 5 is the minimum number of trained soldiers, and they will equip always, and they can sleep in their rooms at will. Yes, done editing. We will let that sit, and then from there, we're just going to kind of let them go about their days. Everybody in this fortress is just a little bit upset, and that's still due to the massive, and I do mean massive, pile of bodies down here, which we are still slowly working on removing. Down here in the garbage, it is... Things are just getting removed as they're getting removed, as quickly as they're getting removed, and we're just doing about as much for that as we possibly can. Bodies are still getting chucked out at a rapid enough rate, but once all of these skeletons have been placed in here and then disposed of, things will eventually start to get better for these dwarves here. I do swear. It will eventually start to get better. So we're going to work on this a little bit more, and then I will check back in after all of these bodies have been serviced, shall we say. You know, I just gotta say that it's really starting to look nicer in here. With all of this stuff getting cleaned up, it's just becoming a nicer place for these dwarves to exist in. I really hope that we're able to turn this whole fortress and space around and make it into a much more habitable place for our dwarves. At the very least, when they arrive, one of the first things they get to do is run around and go find a nicer, place for them to exist in. One of the major goals that I have after I get this base layout set up and we start getting our bedrooms set up here is I really, really, really want to get that library started. I haven't entirely decided where we're going to put it, but I think it's going to be kind of a design around this, kind of going down from the surface up here and then moving up. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend a very brief period of time while the dwarves are up there praying, as I would be too, is I'm going to do a little bit of a layout build right here and see if I can make a cool pattern using this pitch blend that's everywhere. And then from there, we will begin looking into exactly what we're going to need to do to build this into a cool library setup. And something else that I also did is that ramp got finished. So I'm going to go up top here and I'm going to place a piece of, let's just say, petrified wood right there in the corner just so I can deconstruct this corner and the bits around it and get this sealed off just a little bit. So I think this is going to be the base layer for my library tower. Because I really, really, really want to get this set up and make this into a priority. I'm kind of foregoing a lot of things that I would be doing right now, such as, prepping to make, like building bedrooms, getting guild halls up and running. What I want is I want a library, and I want it to have a writer's guild hall so that we can restore what this fortress once was and what it was intended as, just a glorious, massive place filled with books. And that is what Bravebook is going to become once again, and that is going to be the legacy of Bravebook, ideally. Now, I know this isn't a completely perfect circle, and you know what? I'm okay with this, but I will put a wall piece right there just so that it looks a little better, because I feel like without a wall piece right there, it's just going to look a little weird. Same with on this side over here. I think I'm going to extend the wall pieces ever so slightly. We're going to put some more flooring down, and then from there, we're going to maybe start working on an upper level. Now, up here on the surface, we have this. This is something that I don't like. This is something that is made by the vanilla-generated fortress. Oh, look, a squirrel. This is made by the vanilla-generated fortresses, and it's just a big old grassy square. Because the way that vanilla fortresses are generated is a little meh. I'm not a huge fan of them. So what I'm actually going to have to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to channel a large portion of this out. Not the entirety of it, because I think that this might be valuable for pasturing animals on. But once this tower digs through this, I'm going to begin looking into changing this layout. In fact, we're going to build up here. I think I can build up this way. I might not be able to. I might have to build a scaffold on the outside, but we'll see if they'll let us kind of dig through this. If they don't, then I can just dig through it, and then we'll work with what we get from up there. But I'm going to be slowly working on removing this grass up here on the surface, although it will be a good place to put some bee colonies, I'm noticing right away. Yeah, so they're not going to let us build these stairs. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dig this. Let's see if they'll let me dig there with a priority number 1 digging structure. If not, once again, I will just simply, build around it and use scaffolds. Now, I've taken this as an opportunity to remove this one chair from this meeting zone, and I'm going to be rewriting it as a office. Now, this office is going to be assigned to a dwarf who's going to be our bookkeeper, because god damn it, we need a bookkeeper. It appears that Zool, the woodcrafter, is a novice record keeper, which means I think that this is going to be your new job, Zool. Zool, we'll get to know a little bit in a second, but first I'm going to assign Zool. Once Zool has been assigned and we see them run up here, I'm going to read their description while they're doing the paperwork and figuring out what exactly is even in this fortress. So Zool apparently was just getting a drink. I would be too if I was in this fortress, and he's updating the stockpile of records now. So let's have a peek. He is annoyed after having a drink without a goblet, cup, or mug. I'm very sorry about that, Zool. We'll have to work on that. Isn't particularly curious about the world. Thinks he is fairly important in the grand scheme of things. Well, and he tends to be swayed by the emotions of others. He doesn't often feel envious of others, and he doesn't cling tightly to ideas and is open to changing his mind. He occasionally overindulges and does not go out of his way to help others. He tends to be a little wasteful when working on projects and doesn't mind a little tumult and discord in day-to-day living. He needs alcohol to get through the working day, and he doesn't really care about anything anymore. Dreams of creating a great work of art and generally sees introspection as important and doesn't particularly care about craftsdwarfship. And he likes claystone and bismuth and lace agate, as well as gauntlets and rings and puzzle boxes and cats for their aloofness. Do you have a pet cat? You do not. Well, maybe you'll end up with one, because cats have a tendency to adopt dwarves they like. And you are satisfied while yelling at somebody in charge. I would be too. And you have no friends. But you do feel good, apparently. So I guess that is a positive thing. Plenty of dwarves sleeping outside. That needs to be worked on. So I'm going to dive back down here and see how this digging is going. It appears to be going, which is definitely better than not going. Let's see if I can get some coordinated color stairs built over here. We got plenty of bauxite. I really, really, really like bauxite. So I'm going to get bauxite going across here, and we're also going to work on some walls. So what I'm going to do is this right here, I don't think I'll be able to build over top of, so I will build some 2 pieces of bauxite right there after I build the bauxite wall right here. So we're going to do bauxite right there. And then later I will put 2 down here. And I think we're actually going to just cut off this corner here, or cut down this corner right here. And then we will allow them to build and seal this off. I will also have to jump up a layer, probably using a ramp, and seal this upper bit off as well, because I don't really want beasts flying in here. That would be kind of suboptimal. And then over here, this is where we're going to start doing our bedrooms. Now, the dwarves that are going to take the utmost of priority are going to be my nobles. Now, my nobles are the dwarves listed here with these nicknames here. Zool, who I didn't just give a nickname, I'm going to give Zool something. Let's just take a real quick think about what this record keeper and their nickname should be. I mean, he's not often cheerful, and he has an iffy memory and little willpower. He isn't particularly curious about the world and dreams of creating a great work of art. So, artist Zool, we'll think of something cool for you to do, humble bookkeeper, because I would like you to have some position of importance. So let's work on our space for our dwarves of importance. And before we do that, we do need some beds built. Now, we do have, like I mentioned earlier and in earlier episodes, we do have these bedrooms down here, right? This is not an optimal method of doing things. And we also need more wood because we are currently out. So we do fortunately have, this burrow set up. So I'm going to do a little bit of additions to this burrow real quick. And once this burrow has been added onto just a little bit more, I will get back to you. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be opening up the caverns briefly and hopefully getting our dwarves in there and out of there safely and quickly, and being able to do a little bit more construction in the cavern zone. So, or rather not construction, but knock out some of these trees and get some of this wood back into the fortress because we do need some things to make beds out of. Fortunately or unfortunately, it's kind of a necessary fortress evil. So I'm going to queue up some top priority. I have this bad habit of never turning off top priority, but we're going to queue up some trees to be hacked down over here. At least we have a pretty good sight of what's going on in here. Let's knock these down and these down. And I'm going to jump up here to the surface, and I'm going to put a wood stockpile up here somewhere. Let's do right there maybe, and just go wood. And upon checking the surface, yes, we are going to have to build scaffolding. So wish them luck, I suppose. So Kogsak, the armorer here, is my only novice woodcutter. I don't really want Meng to go out there and do that necessarily. So I think we're gonna give it to this the job here to Kogsak so that they go out and become a novice woodcutter. So best of luck to our new novice, and we will keep an eye on these doors very carefully here. Meng enters out, and it's going to be a mad rush of all of the dwarves to get down here as soon as stuff opens up. So I'm actually going to just station the military here kind of as a guard temporarily while we get all of this wood into the fortress. Meng currently is quite satisfied after felling a tree. Well, I guess that is a good thing. There is a troglodyte booking it past here, so there's a few of them even. Not such huge threats, but they're enough of a threat that they're worth noting. They are not currently messing with anything, and there isn't any combat happening just yet. I'm going to move the military up in their station just a little further so that we can deal with those troggies as they come by, assuming they do. We really need to trap this area up better. The dwarves are all booking it over to the first spots of wood just to bring those up, of course. So far, it's been pretty quiet in the caverns. I guess so far so good, really. I haven't seen any combat yet. We do have a First Ash who's visiting. Who's this? Who's this visitor First Ash? Of course, a member of similar, a whole bunch of them even. These are all necromancer experiments. Let's, who is our most recent visitor? We have to kind of pay some close attention to our visitors because they could cause us some problems potentially. Right, yeah, you were the one that was here earlier, weren't you? You're interesting. I'm curious about this person, often inflamed by hatred. Personally values honesty and respects power, and doesn't have any known groups or doesn't have any known relations, but is a member of the Nightmare of Dwelling, and they're a criminal organization, and they're also a member of the site government, the Unnamed Devil, and they're a criminal there, and they're a member of an outcast member of the Single Dungeon. So whoever this is, they are a dangerous kind of character, which is definitely worth paying attention to. We got dwarves that are mining this upper area because we have stuff that's been constructed enough, which is good to see. I'm going to queue up some more bauxite walls here because I would like to keep this area kind of locked off as our little upper walkway thing. And I think what I'm going to end up doing is actually cutting out a little bit more of that up there because this little mushroom down here, well, I mean, it's in the water, so I can't actually chop it down. It's just going to kind of permanently be in the way, but I like making little walkways through the caverns, so we're going to keep doing it. Dwarves appear to be booking it in and out of the caverns safely and collecting that wood. The military is doing their job, which is stupendous, frankly. Oh, somebody just ran off in fear. What was that? Troglodyte is fighting. Okay, with who? Where? Okay, there's a crew of little troglodytes kind of walking towards the fortress. They seem to be slapping dwarves in ways that I'm not a huge fan of, so we're going to queue the military up to come deal with this. And it's unfortunate that we have to slaughter such kind of weak little creatures, but it appears that this dwarf is fighting with them, and we really don't need Stukos dying here. So Onul, the swords dwarf, comes running in first and hacks the troglodyte in a good way, I would say. I'm just going to clear this so that we can get to the top of the combat log once again. The troglodyte is fighting, punches a human. Where's our swords dwarf right here? There you are, up there at the top. Stabs the troglodyte in the upper arm with her bronze short sword, and the 7-part sails off in an arc. Well, that's off to a good start, I see. Stabs the troglodyte in the right upper arm with her bronze short sword, and the 7-part sails off in an arc. No arms. Why do you need those? Bits and pieces fly everywhere. It seems like our dwarves are handling this fight quite handily. No real issues there. Checking upon our recruits. Meng the Axe Dwarf here. How are you feeling? Did you get any kills? No, you didn't, but you have been ordered to kill them. How about you, Jurist of Legend? Terrified while in conflict and afraid after experiencing trauma. Did that change your personal values or anything? Nope, you still dream of becoming a legendary warrior. Well, this comes with it. You were able to kill a troglodyte, though. Excellent start to becoming a grand warrior. I'm going to restation the military just outside so that they don't go off and go do other things. They're very vengeful, and we are going to set these bodies to be dumped so that they don't cause a mess faster than they need to. Not a bad little fight. At least, whoop, somebody else showed up. There seems to be like there's one left who is currently running away, utterly terrified, which I would be too. 2 more down here even. One of them has been smacked up pretty good. 2 more down. We're going to remove the one from the top and then the one from the ramp. And the dwarves go back to resting. At least they're very enthusiastic about their new job. And we're able to, get these bits and pieces cleaned up rather quickly, which is also going to drive moods down considerably. Hopefully that's about it for the cavern visitors, though, because we do need these beds primarily, and that is our main goal here. So up here on the surface, I'm constructing a new carpenter shop for our dwarves so that we can get a new set of beds up and coming. We do also have many of jobs over here that have been suspended, so I'm going to go through and unsuspend all of those in a minute. But frankly, I think that this here episode has been going quite well. It's been a little bit of a calmer one. Like, we did have some excitement against those troglodytes, but we've done a considerable amount of digging as well. I've also queued up these, which are going to be bedrooms for our initial nobles. So these are, once again, the nicknamed dwarves. And then down on a layer below, on kind of this area here, is where the main bedroom complex is going to be. Over here is where we're going to have our tavern and all of that kind of space. Well, actually, I think the bedrooms are going to be split between here and over here, but this is going to be kind of where we're going to put our main tavern and kind of our living space for our dwarves. And I think I can set the military back to just training now, because it appears that the troglodytes that came in, at least initially, have calmed down now, at least for the time being. So since we're in kind of a point of calm here, I think now might be a good spot for me to kind of cap off this here episode 4 of Bravebook Reclamation. And I just wanted to say to those of you who've been watching through this series, thank you very much. These do take a lot more production time than the average stuff that I make. And, I might be kind of more of a quantity over quality kind of person on the internet, but this is my real attempt at trying to do something concise and interesting in between the Dwarf Fortress news as well as other things, and I would like to kind of going forward just always have one of these series running. Currently, it looks like the upload schedule for this particular fortress is going to be Mondays and Fridays. I was initially planning just Mondays, but we're going to see if we can keep up with Monday and Friday for a little bit. Thank you very much for watching this episode. Please check out the previous episodes if you haven't yet, and if you would like to support me directly, you can do that either by tuning into my streams over on twitch.tv/BLINDIRL or picking up a piece of merchandise over on my merch store. Of course, there's also things like YouTube members and my Patreon if you would like some additional perks as well. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one.